We have to recite Dukkha Sacca Pali first. Can you follow me? Kataminja Bhikkhave Dukkha Riya Sacca Jatipi Dukkha Jarapi Dukkha Maranampi Dukkha Soka Paridewa Dukkha Domanasu Payasapi Dukkha Abhiyehi Sambhyogopi Dukkha Piyehi Vibhyogopi Dukkha Yambejana Lavati Dampi Dukkha Sanketena Pinjupada Nekhanda Dukkha. We recite together. Kataminja Bhikkhave Dukkha Riya Sacca Jatipi Dukkha Jarapi Dukkha Maranampi Dukkha Soka Paridewa Dukkha Domanasu Payasapi Dukkha Abhiyehi Sambhyogopi Dukkha Piyehi Vibhyogopi Dukkha Yambejana Lavati Dampi Dukkha Sanketena Pinjupada Nekhanda Dukkha. Translation, follow me. And what bhikkhus is the noble truth of suffering? Birth is suffering, aging is suffering, death is suffering, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and excessive despair are suffering. Association with the dislike is suffering. Separation from the liked is suffering. Not to get what one wishes, that also is suffering. In brief, the five aggregates of clinging are suffering. Ariya Dukkha Ariya Sacca. Ariya should know this suffering completely. So you know these are suffering, but not like Ariyas. Ariya who attain enlightenment understand this truth of suffering very clearly. Yeah, Buddha. Maranampi Dukkha, death is suffering. Death means extinction of our life principle. Life principle has been in ceaseless operation since the time of our conception as conditioned by individual karma in a particular existence. All beings are in constant fear of death, that means just the moment of dissolution of Jivita, mind and matter, and it is not by its pain nor distress. During the practice of meditation, you understand that momentary dissolution again and again. So you may understand. If if you practice very well, everything, every psychophysical phenomena dissolving continuously. In the same way, the last moment of our dissolution of Jivita, mind and matter. So when death comes, we have to abandon our physical body and we have to leave behind our dear and near ones, relatives, friends, together with all our own properties. The thought of living the present existence is very frightening. We all are seized with fear of death. After this life, we have to go another trip. So another trip, another life to go to this trip. If we do not have some properties, it will be very frightening. So you all are preparing for your next trip. To continue our next trip, some properties you are collecting and accumulating moment by moment. Now, our worldly properties cannot be carried along, but Ariyadana properties, noble treasures, can be carried to another life. So these properties are Saddha, faith or confidence in the true Buddha. So now you are looking for the true Buddha, real Buddha. If real Buddha, Buddha must be a real enlightened person. And real Buddha knew and understood what is to be understood in this world without outside help. And Buddha must be endowed with wisdom, conduct, and so on. So you're very fortunate. You see, you look for the true Buddha, and then you take refuge in the Buddha. So when you understand and when you believe in the true Buddha as a person who knows what is there to be known in this world and knows it correctly without help from any other person. If you believe in this way, you are said to have faith or confidence or belief in the true Buddha and his enlightenment. And also you are looking for the true Dharma. There's nothing, only Namarupa is there. Now you are watching very closely and continuously that Namarupa diligently. And then you are searching for the true Sangha. And you are looking for the true practice. This practice you believe, you are trying to observe every phenomena occurring at the six doors. There is only Nama and Rupa you will discover. And these Nama Rupa you observe and they disappearing very continuously. So that treasures of Saddha, noble treasure of Saddha is accumulated. And that is the properties you can bring along to your next life. So you are not afraid to meet death in your last moment. Another treasure is sila, the purity of moral conduct. You keep your precepts. It is also very precious treasure. You keep your 5 precepts, not killing, not stealing, not sexual misconducts, not telling lies, and no intoxicant. And then you try to keep 8 precepts during this 2 months intensive retreat. So keeping these precepts is called Ariya treasure. These sila are cherished by the noble one. So it is noble treasure. It is precious for those who keep them. And the follower of the Buddha, or all those who claim to be the followers of the Buddhas, are expected to keep at least these 5 precepts. So this sila treasure is very reliable. Tisarana, triple gem, your 5 precepts are very reliable. Even this treasure make your trip, next trip, very smooth. You will not go down to the lower states due to your purity of sila. And other treasures you are preparing is Hiri Uttapa, moral shame and moral fear. Moral shame means in doing unwholesome acts. Shame in killing, shame in stealing, shame in telling lies, and so on. Because of this moral shame, you refrain from breaking the rules. You refrain from killing living beings. Etc. It is a precious treasures for you. It is real treasure to bring along to your next trip. So long as you possess this moral shame, you will abstain from doing what is wrong. So if you do not possess it, then you will do what you like, and most of what people do will be a wholesome act. So moral shame is one of the wholesome qualities you are preparing. It is a real treasure, real dana. And then also you prepare moral fear. Moral fear means not really fear, but it is fear of consequence of the immoral act. Because if you do something wrong first, you will be censured by noble person, and then you will experience the painful consequences of these immoral acts. Because you are afraid of these painful results, you refrain from doing immoral acts. This is also a treasure. This is also you are preparing. So these Hiri Uttapa always together. When there is Hiri, there is Uttapa, and when there is Uttapa, there is Hiri. So moral shame and moral fear, these two are described in other discourse as protector of the world. So long as you keep these two treasure, then our society will be in good shape. Once we lose either moral shame or moral fear, or both, our society will become contaminated. So these treasures are Lokapala Dhammas, those qualities that protect the world from becoming immoral and so on. So you are preparing this treasure also. And then jaga or dana, you always do. It is also reliable. Even some dana can be very reliable for your next trip. If you have dana, sila, bhavana, you are sure to obtain very smooth trip for your next life. So, jaga or dana. Giving away, it is like giving away, donating. So we are instructed not to be much attached to what we possess, and also to share with other people what we have. It is described that people should be open-handed, something like ready to give to other people. Such people are called one whose hands are washed. That means ones whose hands are washed of stinginess. So, who has little or no stinginess, who is always ready to share what he or she possesses with other people, such person is said to have chaga or dana. So you very generously offer water or flowers or food or everything is something you need, you can handle, you support and share with other people. And here you share with the people who have morality. It is good. And very seriously, you are preparing pinya or knowledge, or you are practicing meditation. So that treasure is very valuable, very precious. So pinya does not mean just knowledge of anything, but pinya is described as the knowledge of the rise and fall, knowledge of arising and disappearing of namarupa or all objects. This pinya knowledge you get only when you practice vipassana meditation. So you practice vipassana or satipatthana meditation, and you at one stage see these mind and matter, you put your mind on like arising and disappearing. And any object that you take as an object comes and then goes away. When you see them clearly in your mind, you are said to possess this knowledge of rise and fall. This knowledge of rise and fall is described as leading to the cessation of suffering. This can lead to cessation of suffering, although there is a lower stage of vipassana jnana. This understanding of rise and fall is very important. If we do not see the rise and fall of the mind and matter, we will not see them as impermanence, as suffering, as non-soul, or as out of our mind or out of our control. So if you do not see these three characteristics, the characteristics of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, impermanence, suffering, and non-soul, you will never get wearied with mind and matter. If you do not become weary with mind and matter, you will not want to uh, get out or to give up, to relinquish your mind and matter. If you do not want to get out of mind and matter, you will not do anything to get out of them. So it is important that we have this understanding, the understanding of rise and fall of mind and matter through the practice of bhavana or satipatthana meditation. So you are preparing this bhavana. So for the last moment, for the next trip, you are collecting dana, sila, bhavana, morality, charity, and meditation. These are reliable for your next trip to be very smooth. So, jati bidokha, jara bidokha, marana bidokha. Soka, sorrow is suffering. Sorrow is the worrying and the states of being alarmed in the person affected by loss of relatives, etc. Loss of our relatives occurs through burglary, robbery, civil war, epidemics, fire, flood, or storm. So then the misfortune come. So this misfortune is called nyati vyasana, loss of relatives. One relatives or group relatives loss, we really have sorrow. And another destruction is destruction of property or possession. That is bhoga vyasana. So when destruction of properties or possession is occasioned by government, theft, or fire, or disaster, it is called bhoga vyasana, destruction of properties. And then roga vyasana, deterioration in health and longevity. Deterioration in health is declining, and deterioration in longevity brought about by harmful sickness is called roga vyasana. And then sila vyasana, broken in morality, is sila vyasana. And the last one is deviation from right view to the wrong view, is ditthi vyasana. So view deviation. So ordinary people have a lot of sorrow when they encounter these various kinds of loss. Even during the time of the Buddha, the very rich donor Visakha and Anathapindika, who was strong supporter to the sasana, they have sorrow and they cry when they encounter that kinds of losses. They are sotabana, but they have the kinds of sorrow because they do not they have stay anger and sadness. Even Venerable Ananda, when Buddha was going to Prinivana, going to die, Venerable Ananda, who was Sotabana, has sorrow and cried. So sorrow with intense worry and alarm is felt, especially when the person is bereaved of loved ones such as husband, wife, sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, etc., or when disastrous economic misfortune befall him or her. So this sorrow is, strictly speaking, domanassa, displeasurable feeling, and as such is intrinsic suffering. So overwhelming distress occasioned by sorrow is liable to cause heartburn, which may contribute to premature aging and even death. When sorrow arises in a big amount, the heart burning, so that may contribute to premature aging, and he may die. So being a basic for all other physical pain, sorrow is fearsome, and so Buddha said, Soka is suffering. Everyone is in fear of sorrow. Capitalizing on this fear, many books have been written on the subject of freedom from sorrow. But the real freedom from sorrow may be achieved only through the practice of 4 foundations of mindfulness. So if you practice very diligently, Caitanupasana, sorrow can be avoided. So by developing the 4 foundations of mindfulness, complete freedom from sorrow can be enjoyed. For example, the minister Santati and Brahmachara Theri, and we will listen the Brahmachara Theri. By practicing Satipatthana meditation, she overcome sorrow and lamentation. So at present times, also distressed people, some having lost husband and others troubled by business failures, they came to practice 4 foundations of mindfulness. Day by day, their sorrow diminished gradually, and finally complete freedom from sorrow comes to them. So this Dhammataravi, Dhamma practice is no side effect. If you practice very faithfully and diligently, you will overcome sorrow and lamentation. Because of this, Buddha declared, Ekayano Yambekwe Sokabri Divana Samatikamaya. This is the only way to overcome sorrow and lamentation. So if you believe, if you sincerely practice, you will overcome sorrow and lamentation. Soka Paridewa, lamentation is suffering. Lamentation is the material quality of sound produced by wailing on the part of the person affected by loss of relatives or properties. So nowadays you may encounter many people, loss of relatives, loss of properties, and they lament a lot, absent-mindedly and hysterically. The distressed person clamors, they proclaim the virtues of the dead person and the qualities of the lost property. They denounce the enemy responsible for his or her disasters. So in the abstract sense, lamentation is the material quality of sound, and so lamentation is not suffering in essence. However, such wailing and hysterical proclamation produce physical discomfort and pain. So Buddha said, Soka Parideva is suffering. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief are suffering. So to cry is to be subjected to pain, that is suffering, that is dukkha. Soka, parideva, dukkha, physical pain is suffering. Physical discomfort in the body, such as stiffness, feeling hurt, aches, tiredness, itch, etc., are suffering. The physical pains are true intrinsic suffering. It is dukkha, intrinsic suffering, which everyone knows and we afraid of. Even animals such as dogs, pigs, fowls, and birds run from safety at the slightest hint of getting beaten or shot at, because they also are afraid of physical pain. That physical pain is suffering. It is important to know that vyadi, sickness or disease, comes under the category of physical pain. So physical pain is generally followed by mental distress, which is the cause of mental pain, and it is named dreadful suffering. If physical pain is mindfully noted in accordance with the Satipatthana method, mental pain can be prevented. So don't make two pains. When physical pain, try to focus it. Notice pain, 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 but pain is getting stronger and stronger. Be patient. If you really diligent to note when the concentration and mindfulness getting strengthened, you can be contented with the kinds of physical pain. Then the physical pain is felt. Only physical pain is felt, because due to your strong concentration and mindfulness, kaya, body is divided from mental pain. So physical pain is felt only. So Buddha spoke in praise of this practice by which mental pain is prevented and you suffer only physical pain. Permitting mental suffering to arise by failing to make note of the physical pain is denounced by the Buddha. The Buddha said, it is like attempting to remove the first stone which is hurting by breaking out with another thorn. When the second thorn breaks and remains embedded in the flesh, then the person suffers two pains, physical pain and mental pain. The person suffers one pain from the first thorn and the additional pain from the second thorn. So Buddha condemned the kinds of person because who failed to make note of the physical pain. So if you diligently note physical pain, when your concentration and mindfulness get strengthened, you can enjoy it and you can suffer only physical pain and no mentally suffer, no mental pain at all. So Soka Paridewa Dukkha Domanasa. Domanasa grief show mental pain such as displeasure, anxiety, misery, sadness, fear, etc. Domanassa is also intrinsic suffering. All beings are well acquainted with it and fear it. So it is very clear. Domanassa not only oppress the mind, but may also torture the body. When the person is fiercely gripped by grief, the person goes about dejectedly without sleep or food for days or end with the consequent impairments of health and even advent of death. So it is truly fearsome dukkha from which only anagami and arhants are exempt. Anagami and arhant, they have no grief, no worry. But meditators who practice Satipatthana meditation can overcome grief if they make strenuous effort of noting it when it arises. So in this way, meditator can reduce the pain or grief to a considerable extent, even if they cannot overcome it completely. So today we have to listen the one of the story of Brahmachara, very famous story. Brahmachara overcome sorrow and lamentation by practice of Satipatthana meditation. So yoja visa satan jiwe apasan udiyabaya ekahan jiwitan seyo pasato udiyabayam. Buddha uttered this verse while residing at the Jetavana monastery in Savatthi with reference to Brahmachara Theri. So Brahmachara was a daughter of a rich man from Savatthi. She was very beautiful and she was guarded very strictly by her parents. But one day she fell in love with a young male attendant of their family and went to live in the village as a poor man's wife. Later she became pregnant, and as the time for confinement drew near, she asked permission from her husband to return to her parents in Savatthi, but her husband did not agree. Her husband discouraged her. So one day while her husband was away, Brahmachara set out for the home of her parents. Her husband followed her and caught up with her on the way and pleaded with her to return with him, but she refused. So it so happened that as her time was drawing so near, she had to give birth to a son in one of the bushes. So after the birth of her son, Brahmachara returned home with her husband. Then she was again with child. As the time for confinement drew near, taking her son with her, she again set out for the home of her parents in Sawati. Her husband followed her and caught up with her on the way. But her time for delivery was coming on very fast, and it was also raining heavily. The husband looked for a suitable place for confinement while he was clearing a little patch of land. The husband was bitten by a poisonous snake and died instantaneously. Brahmachara waited for her husband, and while waiting for his return, she gave birth to her second son. So in the morning, she searched for her husband, but only found his dead body. So she said to herself, "Now, dear husband, you die on account of me." So she was very sad. Then she continued on her way to her husband. Because it had rained continuously the whole night, the river Achiravati was flooded, and so it was not possible for her to cross the river carrying both her sons. So leaving the elder boy on the sides of the river, and she crossed the stream with her day-old son and left him on the other bank. Then she came back for the elder boy. While she was staying in the middle of the river, a large hawk, a large kite, hovered the younger child, and it took it for a piece of meat. So Brahmachara shouted to frighten away the birds, but it was all in vain. The child was carried away by the hawk. So at that time, the elder boy heard his mother shouting from the middle of the stream, and the boy thought she was calling out him to come to her. So the boy entered the stream to go to his mother, and he was carried away by the strong current. So Brahmachara lost her two sons as well as her husband. So she wept and lamented loudly. "Now my son is carried away by hawk, another son is carried away by the current, and my husband is also dead, bitten by a poisonous snake." She wept and lamented loudly. Then she saw a man from Savatthi and she tearfully asked after her husband or after her parents. So that man replied that due to a violent storm in Savatthi in previous night, the house of her parents had fallen down, and both her parents, together with her 3 brothers, had died last night. So they had been cremated on one funeral pyre. So lady, you see this funeral pyre, you see smoke. So these are the funeral and cremation of the parents together with 3 brothers. So on hearing the tragic news, Parachara went mad. So she did not even notice that her clothes had fallen off from her, and she was half naked. So she went about the streets shouting out her woes. So while Buddha was giving a discourse at the Jidavana monastery, he saw Brahmachara at a distance. So Buddha willed that Brahmachara should come to the congregation. So the crowd saw Brahmachara coming and they tried to stop her. They said, "Don't let the mad woman come in." But Buddha told them, "Do not prevent Brahmachara coming in." And when Brahmachara was close enough to hear him, Buddha told Brahmachara, "Satain Padilava Bhagini." Brahmachara, be careful, be careful. And Buddha reminded her. And when Buddha told her to be careful and to keep calm, then Brahmachara realized that she did not have her clothes, and she became shameful and sat down. Someone gave Brahmachara a piece of cloth and she wrapped herself up in it. Then Brahmachara told the Buddha how she had lost her sons, her husband, her brothers, and her parents. Then Buddha said to Brahmachara, "Brahmachara, have no fear. You have now come to one who can protect you and guide you throughout the rounds of samsara. The amount of tears you have shed on account of the death of your sons, husbands, parents, and brothers are voluminous. The tears are a lot. It is even more than the waters of the 4 oceans." Buddha said to Brahmachara. Thus, Buddha expounded to Brahmachara the Anamitaka Sutta, which dealt with countless existences, and she felt relieved. Then Buddha added that one should not think too much about those who are gone, but one should purify oneself and strive to realize Nibbana. On hearing this exhortation from the Buddha, she understood the meanings of the words of the Buddha, as she practiced meditation, maybe noting the sadness and anxiety and worry. Then she observed every phenomena occurring at the six senses. And due to her parami, she attained Sotapatti fruition. Then Brahmachara became a bhikkhuni. One day she was cleaning her feet with water from a water pot, and as she poured the water from the first time, it flowed only a short distance and disappeared. Then she poured for the second time, and the water went a little farther, but the water she poured for the third time went the farthest. As Brahmachara looked at the flow and the disappearance of water poured out successively for 3 times, she began to perceive clearly the disappearing stages of the life of beings. So Buddha saw her through supernormal power from Jetavana monastery, sent forth his radiance and appeared to her in person. Then Buddha said to Brahmachara, now you are on the right track, and you now have to have the true perception of the 5 aggregates. The person who does not perceive the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and insubstantiality of the aggregates is useless, even if he or she were to live for 100 years. And Buddha uttered this verse, Yocha Visa Satan Jive Apasan Udiyabhayam Ekahan Jivitan Seyo Pasato Udiyabhayam. That means a day in the life of meditators who perceives the arising and dissolving of the 5 aggregates is better than 100 years in the life of a person who does not perceive the arising and dissolving of the 5 aggregates. So this is very precious teaching. So your life is very precious. A day in your life, a day in your life who perceive the arising and dissolving of the 5 aggregates is better than 100 years in the life of a person who does not perceive. So at the end of the discourse, Brahmachara Theri attained arahantship. So in this story, we need to understand even the Pichima Bhavika, that means a person who will attain arahantship also become crazy in that life, and also very fortunately she practiced Satipatthana meditation, and then she overcome sorrow and lamentation, and finally she became arahant. And also we need to remember your practice is very precious and beneficial to see the arising and dissolving of the 5 aggregates. So remember, a day in the life of the meditators, when you perceive the arising and dissolving of the 5 aggregates, is better than 100 years in the life of a person who does not perceive. So we will continue tomorrow. We have to stop our discourse for today by practicing Satipatthana meditation, by observing every phenomena occurring at the six senses. May all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future. So,